guys, thank you for tuning in. In this video, I wanted to chat a bit more about my process when I'm modeling. I wanted to kind of talk about my workflow. It's basically, in this video, it's like a time lapse of me kind of mocking up like this dungeon style, medieval style door. My main focus is going to be like low poly. I think low poly is pretty amazing, and I don't typically focus on realism or realistic work. I kind of like the simplistic style of low poly, and it really just lets me focus on just shape and silhouette with just like single color and shadow, things like that. So when modeling low poly, to get started, I just start focusing on the shapes. I start blocking things out, focusing on really the larger pieces. So if you're basically taking a look at your reference art, just focus on those large pieces of shape, whether it's a door, maybe the door handle. Don't even start thinking about like the details. Just start focusing on the shape and the silhouette, and I think you'll be fine. That's what I'm doing here. That's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of focusing on that. Just basically don't get bogged down to the details, because at this stage, you really don't need that. You'll get the details later as you build into it, the different shapes and things that make up the overall piece. In this particular view, what I'm doing is starting to add different shapes that are based on my reference, and I'm just adding some different wood pieces. This is part of the door, and this is a wood piece, but I'm not adding any wood style elements. I'm not making any major changes to it, just kind of blocking it in, just kind of getting it in place. And I'm just kind of moving around the whole piece to kind of get a feel. So at the bottom, instead of having a single block or stone, I broke it up a little bit by it's like me telling myself, okay, I'm gonna have, some different blocks here to kind of break it up a little bit. And here again, just adding in some shapes here to tell me, hey, I'm gonna add some flourishes here, a little bit of detail. And the same thing with this shape here. This shape is basically me thinking, like, how is a door built? Maybe there's like a bolt here or a nail here or there. I don't know how an actual door is built, but I can at least give the perceived perspective that this element needs to be here, because if it's not here, the door wouldn't actually be a door, or it wouldn't actually be able to hold itself together. So again, I'm putting different pieces in, like on these corners, I'm adding different corners just to kind of bring some depth to this piece, right? And I'm adding things on the edge of a door that could possibly be on a dungeon style door. And then again, like for instance, this right here is me adding the idea of like hinges, right? And so that's kind of me kind of taking a look at that and thinking, even though this door has no intentions of swinging open, I can always make that happen by changing the pivot points, but it's there for just like aesthetics. So I put a hinge, I put a handle, right? And you still want to make sure you add that sort of thing to your pieces to help sell that idea. Again, this is low poly, so it's going to come through in the shadows and the colors that you use. All right, so pretty much, I think at this part of the video, I'm now going to begin focusing on bringing in some of those ideals, those details. So these are stones, and the whole part of this is adding some additional details like cracks and abrasions and things to make it feel like it's worn, right? So if this was in a dungeon, obviously it's been here for a while, so you want to make it look like it's been here for a while. And so I'm adding cuts. I'm using the different tools in UModeler, like cuts, the push-pull tool, all types of different things to be able to kind of facilitate that. I think the knife tool is a really handy tool in this regard, because it basically allows you to just like cut straight through and it doesn't fool around. Like, it just works. And so I really like that tool, and I like that to break it up. So you can use a knife tool to make rocks and stones and all types of things. So in this case, I'm using it to kind of break up some of the edges and things like that. So sometimes if you want to add an edge loop, but you can't, so a nice cut through will give you that edge loop that you might be looking for. And so again, nothing too special here. Again, just using my polyline tool. It's kind of working through it, and I'm just basically touching each and every single one of these. Maybe there's a faster way to do it. It's just how I kind of go about it. I start approaching it this way. So for me, it kind of works this way. It's just kind of go through. I think if this was a whole lot of blocks, what I would really want to do is maybe make 4 or 5 different blocks and then just use them throughout. So it just kind of depends. In this case, I feel that I'm going to basically break up this whole side here. And then after that, what I want to do is go ahead and duplicate this over so that I don't have to go through that all over again, as you can see. And what I'll end up doing here is now taking some of the blocks from the left and the right and using those at the top so that I don't have to continue to kind of edit those. I could just kind of make some subtle changes so it's not identical. And then on the right pillar of blocks, to make those feel a little different from the left side, because I mirrored it, I'll just make some subtle changes to it so that, again, it doesn't look like a reflection per se, right? Some elements I could probably go in and tweak a bit more, but again, this was just for practice and just kind of getting into a flow, I think. And so now I'm kind of messing with the footer blocks. And so these stones here at the bottom, I'm just going to add some of those same cuts. You know, you're just using the same tools over and over again, which is with the addition of the favorites tool section where you can do that. That was huge for me because I like to use like the same tools over and over again. And so this makes it so much easier to get to it. Since this is the door is going to be all wood for the most part. So these pieces here, since it's low poly, I'm adding bevels to everything. And bevels really just help sell it helps the way that light hits the mesh. So it just makes it feel a lot better. And so adding those bevels adds a little bit of detail without adding too much polygon count to the object. So, and here again, I'm just refining basically all of the shapes that I already put in. Now I'm just going through and just refining a few different things, testing out the scale, bringing in the avatar, just kind of saying, okay, is this scale still good? Does it feel good? It feels okay. And this is a piece of wood here that's kind of hinged between like a block and another piece of wood. So just to kind of sell, more wood pieces around the piece. So yeah, and so again, just adding more bevels and more pieces here. And I think that's kind of how my approach is with this throughout this whole mesh. You don't have to, overthink it. You just kind of go in and just base it all on shapes. And pretty much at this point, I'm pretty much done with the model itself. I make a few adjustments here and there, but the modeling in and of itself is pretty much done. At this point, let's talk about how I kind of organize the model in the hierarchy here. So as you can see in this video, what I'm doing is just kind of breaking down the different pieces and kind of grouping things together. All right, so what I'm gonna do is go ahead and skip showing you me kind of going through setting that part up. So basically now what I have here is basically all of these kind of organized into individual groups. And you can basically prepare yourself for how you're going to texture things. In this case, I'm setting it up based on the function. but you could actually set it up to where it says wood or stone or glass or some type of material that you're using, and that's appropriate too. I do like doing things that way. It just kind of depends on what you're doing, but for now, my whole goal here is to kind of showing the modeling and then how I'm approaching the ambient occlusion, and then that's kind of my general flow, right? So at this point, what I'm going to do here is say, okay, well, this is my main object, my UModeler object, but what I want to do is group these in a even more, like, group them and combine them so it's even easier to deal with. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this. So I'm going to Control V, and it's going to take a little bit of time. And then once that's done, I'll have my second one here. So I'm going to actually turn this off so you can't see it. And then this one I'm just going to rename, and I'm just going to call it Phase 2. And my Phase 2 ultimately is me taking all of these objects at the top, so this stone header, and I'm going to go and hit Combine. And then I'm just going to basically rename this. And I'm going to say stone header, and that's how I did that. So I'll just delete this one, and then I'll do the same thing for the pillar, and I'm just going to repeat this process all the way through. So I'm going to do Combine, and that's going to be stone pillar A, and then I'll just go ahead and do that as well. And then I'll just go ahead and delete that one, and then I'll do the same thing here. Hit Combine, pillar B, delete this, do the footer, do that, and then I'll do the same thing for the last two here, combine. And I'm combining this whole door frame, so I'm gonna go Combine as well. And last but not least, the door. And so then I'll do this, combine all of those pieces, including all the little knobs and things, hit Combine, and I'll just type this in, wood door. Awesome. All right, and I'll delete the old one. And so then I'm gonna take all of these objects like that, so this is all of them, and I'm gonna just move them into Phase 2, right? And so now we have all of these objects combined based on kind of what they do. And from this point on, what I can do now is assign different materials. Now, the reason I'm assigning different materials is because when you take this into Substance Painter, by combining when you assign different materials, Substance Painter will separate the model based on the material type. So I'll show you that better than explain it. So what I'm gonna do is add the stone footer to the footer, add the header to the header, pillar A, pillar B, wood door, and frame. And so now I have this that kind of looks like that. And so now what I want to do is export this as an FBX so that I can take that into my Substance Painter. So I'm just going to select the group, go to Object, and then export to FBX. So I'm just going to take this, and it's Phase 2, Dungeon Door. I'm just going to save, do export. And so there's our FBX file. Everything is there. And so now I'm gonna take this into Substance Painter so I can bake my ambient occlusion directly to this. And keep in mind, I haven't done any UVs yet, anything like that. Just model, organize, and then export to FBX. So let's head over to Substance Painter. All right, so I have Substance Painter open here. And so what I'm gonna do is, first thing is I'm gonna go to File, I'm gonna go to New, And I'm gonna go straight to File here, and I'm gonna select the FBX file that we created in Unity with UModeler X. And so there's my file. So I'm gonna go ahead and select that and hit open. And I don't change pretty much anything here. I'm gonna leave this at a 2048. You can go higher if you want, but 2048 is where I typically leave it. And I'm gonna also make sure that auto unwrap is on, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is hit okay. So that's pretty much it. So I'll hit okay. And so what it's doing now is unwrapping each individual material object that I have. So basically, by applying different materials to different parts of my object, it's separating it. So basically, as you can see here in the texture set list, this is the stone footer down here. And so it has its own UVs. The header has its own, pillar A, pillar B has its own, the wood door, and then the frame as well. And that's the benefits of adding a different material to different sets. Just kind of depends how you want to go about it, but that's the benefits of doing it. Also, I think it helps with the detail, because if you had one material for the whole thing, it's probably fine if it's just like a solid color that you're doing. In my case, I could probably get away with solid color. But if I was doing like detailed like painting and very intricate type things, I would probably want to go this route to kind of bring out those details when painting. But I'm doing low poly work, so for me this works pretty good. So now it's time to bake the ambient occlusion, because that's really the main reason I use Substance Painter. It's for the ambient occlusion. So what I'm going to do now is to really bring this out, because if you go into your material, this part here, and you kind of go to mesh maps, ambient occlusion, it's nothing, it's just there. So what I'm going to do is go over to mode and go to bake mesh maps. Now in here, what I'm going to do, now you see how it looks now. So what I'm gonna do now is go right here where it says use low poly mesh as high poly mesh. Now you can click this where you would actually get a high definition mesh. You could click this and select your FBX as your high poly mesh, but they know that there's going to be individuals who also use the low poly mesh as the high poly mesh. So I'm just going to use the same mesh I have to get those ambient occlusion shadows and stuff. Now here in the mesh map bakers, I really only want ambient occlusion, but I'm going to leave everything the way it is for now. And then that's pretty much it. So what I'm going to do is click this button where it says bake selected textures. And so it's gonna go through each particular material, baking those details into it so I can really see those. And we'll kind of let that kind of go through and wait for this to finish. Almost done. And there we have it. So now you can see that you have this here, and if we go into our ambient occlusion, this is kind of what the ambient occlusion looks like, as opposed to just like no color or anything. So I think that's really nice. Now we're going to return to paint mode. So now that we're here, we can look at the ambient occlusion maps as well, and you can see how each one was baked. And this is the main reason why I use this, is really just for this feature mainly. I mean, there's obviously other tools here, and I do use it for like texturing and stuff. But I think really, I really have always needed this ambient occlusion part. So I love it for that. And that's pretty much it. At this point, this is not a texturing tutorial. It's just to kind of give you an understanding as to like my process and the flow that I go with. And at this point, you kind of texture it the way you need to. And if you guys like this video, of course, reach out to me. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this. This is kind of like my first video, kind of walking through a process. So let me know if that worked for you. If I can improve in certain areas, of course, just let me know. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.